Can you hear me? I will repeat it again. Good evening and welcome to another episode of Paranormal Unite live right here. Paranormal Unity. It's what it's all about. Tonight's interesting topic actually came from one of my admins, Janet Hartle. So it's all thanks to Janet. We are going to be discussing near-death experiences. Does anybody know anyone who has ever had a near-death experience, or have you experienced one yourself? And if you have, I'd love to hear about your experience of this near-death experience before we really kick into it and I start giving you stories of different people around the world of their experiences with the near death. So now I spoke to Janet today, and Janet has actually had a near death experience. So I want to hear Janet's story, and I want Janet to tell everybody here her story. So, Janet, I'm going to give you the floor, my friend, and you can tell us all about your near death experience because I actually found it quite interesting when you were talking to me about it today. Now, you're going to probably have to wait, ladies and gentlemen, before she replies because, like she said today, it took her, it takes her a long time to actually type because she has to think about shit. So there you go. Hey, Madhu, how you going? So I will just acknowledge those. Stacy, good evening. Moringa, Lynn, welcome you all to tonight's episode in Paranormal Unity Live. What, the cousin on or the other? No, your experience, Janet, the one that you told me about your spatula and your oven and all that, and then you can tell me about the cousin one as well. You can tell everybody what you discussed with me today. I invited people just going to share. Thanks, Stacey. Really appreciate that. So how about it, Janet? You tell us your experiences and also your cousin's experience. And while she's doing that, ladies and gentlemen, let us open up the floor. I'm going to tell you one quick story of a story that I found of a lady who lives in Georgia. Her name is Sadavia. Sounds like a pretty mouthful of a name, but anyway, there you go. She died on the operating table during surgery in late 1979. Now, her story is actually in a book called Beyond the Light. Okay, so if you want to check out some of the stories that I'm about to share with you tonight, look up the book Beyond the Light. This story is actually in that book. And it starts off like this. I must say that this experience was quite unsettling, to say the least. I was floating over my body. I could see and hear everything that was being said and done. I left the room for a short while and then returned to where my body lay. I knew why I died. It was because I couldn't breathe. There was a tube down my throat and the medical staff did not have any oxygen mask on my nose. I had also been given too much anesthetic. In my out-of-body state, I'm using my mind to try and make my right arm and hand move. My arms are extended parallel to my physical body. I want my right hand to move, anything to move. I was trying to pull the tube out of my mouth. I looked down at my face and tears were streaming. One of the nurses blotted the tears from my face, but she didn't notice my breathing had stopped. Nor did she see me next to her. At this point, I'm trying really hard to make my physical arm move, but it's like my whole body is made of lead. Now, wouldn't that be kind of freaking out of it? That would make me shit. You're actually floating above your own body, and yet no one in that operating theatre could see them, could see this lady. No one. Absolutely nobody could see her. Now you imagine that you're having a near-death experience. You're standing right next to the nurse who is actually wiping away your tears, and they don't even realize for 1 minute that you've stopped breathing. She actually states that she was also given too much anesthetic. Now, that's kind of freaky, ladies and gentlemen, because anyone who is about to go into theatre and to have an operation like myself, which I will be heading to Wellington in the near future to have an operation on my back again, it's something to think about. It really is. And I believe that anyone who is about to go under anesthetic and go for an operation does worry, does think about it. Hey Diana, how you doing? Welcome aboard. About the what ifs. What if this happens? What if this goes wrong? Okay, so here is a lady who actually had an out of experience out of her body. She was near death experience, and this story is actually in the book called Beyond the Light. So if you want to read more about it, if you want to know more about it, grab the book. I know I'm going to be hunting it down and I'm going to be reading it myself. But for those of you who have just joined and didn't catch the story, I'll bring you up to scratch right now. There was a lady who lives in Georgia who went for surgery in the late 1979. Now, her story is in the book called Beyond the Light, and she starts off this way. I must say that this experience was quite unsettling to say the least. I was floating over my body. I could see and hear everything that was being said and done. I left the room for a short while and then returned to where my body lay. I knew why I died. Now that's kind of funky, eh? She knew why she died. Here's the answer. It was because I couldn't breathe. There was a tube down my throat, and the medical staff did not have an oxygen mask on my nose. I had also been given too much anesthetic. Now here she is watching the nurse wipe her tears away. Here she is standing next to the nurse who's doing it, and they don't even know that she's there. Anyway, Janet has just given us her story. And let's bring the story up, shall we, Janet? Okay, Janet, she writes, years ago I went to cook dinner, had the spatula in my hand and had it on the frying pan, had bare feet. All of a sudden I couldn't take my hand off the frying pan. Next thing I can feel like waves going through my body, starting from my feet, traveling up my body. I tried to yell out help, but no sound came out. Next thing I don't remember anything till I came to, and my dog was barking at me, and my hand was burnt, and the spatula was on the other side of the room. I was electrocuted from the main oven. The whole stove was alive. The electrician said if it was a stainless steel bench and not a Formica one, I would be dead today, and that was all that saved me. Stacy, you shouldn't wish it upon yourself to know that 1 minute you're fighting for air and to see your parent being pushed from your body and you're watching people fight to bring you back and you can't stop your dad from shaking uncontrollably. People wish a lot of things, Murray, and at the end of the day, son, it's their choice to want to experience a near-death experience. I think there's a lot of people around the world that would love to experience it so they can come back and tell people what they've seen, what they've heard. And it does happen. Anyway, let's get back to this lady's story. I could see my spirit standing before me. My spirit was so beautifully perfect, dressed in a white gown that was loose, free-flowing, and below the knee. From my spirit there emanated a bright, soft, white halo. My spirit was standing 6 to 8 feet from my body. It was so strange, for I could see my spirit, and my spirit could see my pathetic body. I had not an ounce of color, and I looked all withered and cold and lifeless. My spirit felt warm and so celestial. As my spirit slowly moved away, my spirit told my body goodbye, for my spirit saw the light and wanted to go into it. The light was like a circular opening that was warm and bright. Now this lady spoke of feeling torn between two worlds, wanting to remain here on earth, while at the same time feeling a strong pull to unite with her spirit self and pass into the light. Now could you imagine that? Here you are, you're dead, clinically dead, and one half of you wants to stick around and the other half wants to be free. She's describing herself to a T, and I don't believe that we are going to hear this only description of a near-death experience. I believe that when we carry on, there is going to be others that probably can describe exactly the same. Stacy writes, "Oh, just to bring back knowledge, yeah, I've been operated on 4 times but don't remember anything, lol. Never been near death, just felt peace after each operation like I had heavenly experiences. I trust God. My cousin had a bad motorbike accident years ago. He has passed now. He said when he had the accident, he said he was standing there watching the meds working on him. He tried to tell them he was okay. He saw the spectators and tried to tell them he was okay. 3 months later, he woke up from his coma." Now, see, there you go. That's an interesting thing, because when they come back from their near-death experiences, they can tell you exactly what they saw at the time. Like Janet was saying, her cousin could see the medical practitioners trying to work on him. He could see the spectators around, and he was trying to tell them that he was okay, but no one could hear him. And then 3 months later, after his accident, 3 months later, he woke up from his coma. Is it a scary experience? It doesn't sound like it so far. So far from what I've read, it seems like it was a beautiful, beautiful experience. Let's take another case. Here's a guy or a lady by the name of, it's a woman actually, sorry. The case of Robin Michelle Alberida of Texas illustrates the overwhelming sense of love experiences often encounter in the light. Her near-death episode took place in a hospital when she was between 1 and 2 months of age. Born prematurely and with hyaline membrane disease, she was not expected to live. Now this is on pages 12 and 13 of the book Beyond the Light. My first visual memory was looking forward and seeing a brilliant bright light, almost like looking directly at the sun. The strange thing was that I could see my feet in front of me, as if I were floating upward in a vertical position. I do not remember passing through a tunnel or anything like that, just floating in the beautiful light. See, now this is the second description where someone else who had a near-death experience talks about this beautiful life. I think it would be a beautiful experience. Well, so far, Diana, it sounds that way, but how about we just keep continuing on and trucking on and see if it changes? Hey, Annie, welcome aboard. Good to see you here tonight. We are conditioned to be afraid of death, but it's a natural thing. When it's due, of course, not before, but not to be afraid is to accept it when the time comes. Well, Stacey, I can actually tell you that I'm not even fearful of death. Never have been, I never will be. Death is, like you said, natural. When it comes, it comes. Why be afraid of it? I've never, ever, ever been afraid of death, and I never will be. The feeling is peaceful and calming, but when you're visually trying to console your family member and they don't know you're there, is upsetting. That is correct, Murray. Anyway, where did I get up to? There was a standing figure in the light, shaped like a normal human being, but with no distinct facial features. It had a masculine presence. The light I have described seemed like it emanated from that figure. Light rays shone all around him. I felt very protected and safe and loved. The figure in the light told me through what I now know to be mental telepathy that I must go back, that it was not time for me to come here. I wanted to stay because I felt so full of joy and so peaceful. The voice repeated that it wasn't my time. I had a purpose to fulfill and I could come back after I completed it. So here you go. Here's this girl who was pretty much born prematurely, had a near-death experience. She was floating towards this light, and then all of a sudden, she sees this figure. Okay, she couldn't see no facial description, but she felt protected. She felt loved. Now, this guy, apparently from her experience, she said that it looked like the light was emanating from this person or from this being or whatever you might want to call it, and said that it was not her time. Now, they were doing it by telepathy, okay? They weren't speaking kōrero. They weren't talking out of their minds. They were talking from here, telepathy, okay? And he said to her that because it wasn't her time, she had a purpose to fulfill and that she could come back after she completed it. Now, what an amazing story. Is it fake? Is it true? I believe so far what I've read is 100% bona fide. Morning, a near-death experience was when I fed a wild horse in the paddock. I went behind the horse, something you don't do, and he lashed out with his hooves. I felt something push out of the way as I slipped beneath the horse. He bolted, and I saw the form of an angel standing there. It was a near miss. His hooves never connected to my head, but so unreal an angel was there. I guess we all have a guardian angel watching over us. That's correct, Mourinho. You know, I believe that every single one of us does have a guardian angel watching over us. I really believe that. I always have. And, you know, to say that you came close to where the horse's hooves could have trod on you, you know, could have stomped on your head, is amazing that it didn't. It really is. And for you to experience what you experienced is awesome. So far, you and Janet, bloody awesome for sharing your stories. But anyway, let's get back to this young girl who had her near experience with death. The first time I told my parents about my experience was right after I began to talk. At the time, I believed that what happened to me was something, was something everyone experienced. I told my mum and dad about the big glass case I was in after I was born, and the figure in the light, and what he said to me. They took my reference to the glass case to mean the incubator. My father was a medical student at the time, and he had read a book about near-death experiences. From comparing the information in the book with what I told them, they decided that's what I was describing. My mum told me all of this years later when I brought the subject up again. I began attending church at the age of 5, and I would look at the picture of Jesus in the Bible and tell my mum that's who it was in the light. I still have many physical difficulties with my health because of being premature, but there is a strong need inside me that I should help others with what death is and talk to terminally ill patients. I was in the other world, and I know there is nothing to be afraid of after death. Well, there you go. There's 2 so far. 2 stories that I found today. 2 stories that have pretty much the same identical description of a bright, beautiful light. A feeling of peace, a feeling of love. Here's a young girl who was born prematurely who actually believes, without a doubt, that she saw Christ. Near-death experiences, you hear about it all the time. Somebody's coming back and saying that, I died and I saw this, or I died and I saw that. Not everyone sees the light. Not everyone. I mean, I've seen documentaries on near-death experiences who some were in a place of darkness and all they could hear was growling. And they really believed that they had gone to hell. But the reason why they never got touched by these demons was because somebody had actually blessed this gentleman's handkerchief. Believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, but it's true. A guy passed away at a hospital. They dressed him up as they do at the Undertakers, and somebody blessed a handkerchief. And he actually stated that this handkerchief glowed. It was a total light in the darkness for him. Now, when he came back, he had been in a coma, and this is where it's really weird of what Janet just said about her cousin being in a coma for 3 months. He was actually in a coma for just over a year. And yet, he said that he felt like he had only been gone for about 10 to 20 minutes max. And yet, he had been gone for nearly a year. How's that? Diana, have you ever watched Heaven is for Real? Yes, I have, Diana. And what an amazing, beautiful movie. Really amazing. It is so touching. It really is. I loved watching that movie. There is someone out there, but we'll never really know until it's your own turn. Now, I'll tell you what, Diana, thank you very much for bringing that up. If anyone wants to actually see a real movie of a young little boy who actually did pass away and come back, that is the movie to see. Heaven is for Real. Now, you can actually watch that on YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. Really, really seriously, watch that movie. There's lots of near-death experiences with the same light, eh? Can't be coincidence. There's a movie about a little boy talking to angels and Jesus after he had a near-death experience, but he was left paralyzed but could walk in his visions. Yeah, Heaven is for Real. Well, yeah, it was you. Yeah, it's lagging. Yeah. Yeah, okay. I've had a near... No, it was you. I've had a near-death experience. I didn't see light or anything like that, but I did see my sister who was telling me that I was going to be okay and to keep fighting. Yeah, see, Annie, everybody's experience is different from anybody else's. Everybody has their own special kind of experience. Really pulls on the heartstrings. Yeah, it does, Diana, because I mean, I'll be honest, I actually cried through that movie. That's how beautiful it was. And I don't really cry um, on movies. I just don't. But that one there really, really ripped my guts out. So there you go. So far, we have heard from Janet, Moringa, now Annie, about their near-death experiences, which are amazing. They're just really, really amazing. And then I've read out so far two. Eh? Well, you can come over here and talk about that one, Mum. Tell people about Pops as well. I'm going to bring my mum here, and she's going to talk about her husband Doug's near-death experience. They say he didn't die on that movie, but that movie was amazing. I cried. So did I. Dad, are you able to say mine? Because, if being honest, I only remember what happened outside my body. Well, you can tell your side, son, and I will tell in the blanks of what I experienced watching and going through what I had to go through when I was watching you. But right now, I'm going to bring my mum up here, and she's going to entertain you guys. So,
Well, I'm not going to entertain, but I'll just
say hello.
you. Hi. No, you're making me sit down too.
Yep.
Well, my partner Doug, who has passed away now, but when he was working at Waipipi, he was up one of the pipes that was on the lawn, and they were putting all the new ceiling inside them, and he was inside the actual pipe, completely covered with a suit, special suit, gloves, everything. The only thing that was exposed with him was his face. Now, this was because they were working with a thing called Tollyhole, which was the glue that they glued everything in with, and which now you can't even get. While he was inside the pipe and only about 6 foot up this pipe, one of the clown from there decided to roll the pipe. Now, while he was in there, he had a bucket, an open bucket of Tollyhole. Because when they rolled the pipe, he rolled bucket over and it splashed on his face. The only bit of skin that was able to be seen. He only just got out of the pipe and collapsed. So, of course, ambulance was called and everything. Now, Tollyhole is lethal. It's absorbed through the skin. Ambulance arrived. They got him into the ambulance, and 3 times between Waverley and Patea Hospital, he actually died. It's documented that he died. Heart massage and everything got him back again. But those 3 times that he died, he floated on the top of the ambulance, looking down at himself and the nurse who was doing CPR and watched her do it. He didn't see any light or anything, but in each of those times, it was exactly the same, looking down at what was being done to him by others. And it wasn't until later that, and each time when they got him breathing again, he would just sort of, as he said, I fell back into my body. And he could even sense that feeling of going back. Each time he was out of his body, the pain was, well, there wasn't any pain. But the minute he entered his body again, the pain was intense. When they actually got to Patia Hospital, they rang the Poison's place in Dunedin. What do we do for him? There was no antidote. So they said give him 24 hours. He's not going to last much any longer than that. The only thing he had on his side was the fact that he was a Christmas Island vet and had been exposed to nuclear. So in that nuclear, or they feel this is the only thing that did it, he actually did survive, and they feel it might have been the extra nuclear he had in his system that did it. But he actually told the staff, specifically the one nurse that had gone and was the one that was doing the CPR. He said, I looked down on you 3 times. And she sort of looked at him and she said, what was I doing? And he told her exactly what she did. Now, this is before she mentioned anything to him. And what he described to her of what she did, she said, you were not in your body. And told him virtually that he'd had an out-of-body experience. Because it was he told her exactly what she had done in the back of that ambulance. And then she told him that he actually died 3 times. So that's my experience. Well, not mine, my husband's. But the tag on the end of it, a bit of useless information. The Poisons Department in Dunedin used to contact him every year to see if he was still alive, because he was the only person ever to survive it. But now it is actually off the market. You can't buy Tollyhole now. So that's my experience. I hope you enjoyed that little story. Well, not a story, a realistic tale. And I will give you back to John.
There you go. Everybody has a different story about near-death experiences. Anyway, my son's just written up his one. I remember falling asleep because I was tired, and to me, I was in the most peaceful feeling dream. I felt like I was the lightest I had been, but when my eyes adjusted, I could see Dad in the corner of the room being held by doctors from getting to me, shaking, and I saw myself lying there being worked on. Next thing I knew, Dad was holding me in tears, and I had no clue of what had happened. See, my son had an operation a few years ago, and everything seemed to have gone fine right up until they brought him back into the children's ward, and he stopped breathing. Not an experience that I would wish upon any parent, especially when you can't do anything. So thanks for that, Murray, for sharing that. Wow, that's amazing, lucky man. Thanks, Mama. Thank you for sharing, John's ma. It's always good to have somebody who can share their story with you. And just like some of them that did it tonight on here, Janet and Mordinga and Annie, and now my big boy Maru. It is heart-wrenching when you watch your own child, stop breathing, being held back so the medical guys can do their jobs. And it is very, very hard. Maybe not for the ones that have the experience, but the ones that actually watch it go. OMG, just remembered I went to sleep one New Year's after drinking my heart out. Was drunk as anything but fell asleep. Next minute, my passed on granddad was pushing me back and forth to wake up. He had passed before this night, but came to wake me up. I woke up choking on spew, had to get my breath back. My granddad had come to me in spirit to save me. Oh, that's cool. That's awesome, Stacey. Yeah, it is. And everything is different. Everything. Anyway, let's read this story. A life after death heart attack victim gives astonishing account of near-death experience. A woman who suffered a near-death experience claims to have undergone an information download, which she believes is proof of God. The lady, who goes by the name of only Heather, was in hospital for an operation when there was a problem with the anesthesia drip line, which caused her heart to stop for a total of 2 minutes and 45 seconds. This caused her to temporarily die, and in the moment she was dead, she claims to have gained proof of God. Writing on the Near-Death Experience Research Foundation (NDERF), Heather says, I was flying about 8 feet over my body. I was watching the scene below as the nurse scrambled through the cabinet looking for something. I thought I was in a dream state until I looked at the EKG and it was all flat lines with the alarms were going off. At this point, Heather says that she knew she was dying and tried to dive back into her body, but was instead sucked into a dark tunnel where, says, she found proof of God. Heather said at the end of this tunnel was the most beautiful place in existence. I seemed to have arrived back in the room, but in another dimension. I was looking at everyone and everything in that hospital through what I can only describe as through the eyes of God. I felt the love of God for all these people in the hospital. I began getting an information download. There was no talking, just information going into me with absolute love. It was very clear, very loud, and very certain that we are all very important to God. Heather then says she ended up in heaven. She continued, in this place we go to, we will have lightness, laughter, and joy, and our soul family is there waiting for us. I recognized a big crowd of people around me, but they didn't have human form. I recognized their souls. They had pink shapes, but also resonated to the energy which was them. Or resonated, sorry. My great uncle Steve, I felt him there. The next moment, I was in my body and squeezed the doctor's hand who was holding my hand. Some researchers, however, state Heather's story is a normal phenomena and not necessarily a sign from heaven. So there you go. Here's a lady who actually died of a heart attack and believes she actually got 100% proof that God is real. She believed that she totally got downloaded information. Well, this has been an amazing topic, one I've actually been able to be a part of. Looking forward to tomorrow's live. Same here, Muddy. That's why I picked it. Hi, Muddy. Thank you for sharing your experience. Hi, Modding. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. So there you have it. There are different types of near-death experiences. They're not all the same, Not all of them see a light, a bright light. Not all of them see Jesus. So, it is quite amazing of how many people actually come back from a near-death experience. People who have never met each other. People who have no clues about each other. People who probably don't even live in the same area as these people, but they tell of the same experience that they had. Same description, the bright light, the feeling of love, peace. Is there 100% true facts of near-death experience? Yes, there is. You can find it online right now. If you Google near-death experiences, you will find the information that you need. There are books out there that are written by people who have actually had near-death experiences.
Well, that one that you had before, the one that you read,
Yep.
that is so similar to Doug, the beginning of it.
Yeah.
As you looked down and saw everything that was going on. Whereas Doug saw exactly what people were doing.
Right, here's another one. A feeling of weightlessness, a bright light at the end of a warm tunnel, the ability to see your own body below you and friends or loved ones who passed away years ago, now surrounding you in absolute peace. These are just a few of the things described by people who have had a near-death experience, and not all of them are as positive. Some recount a visit to hell where they were overcome with fear and hopelessness and even tortured by demons. While many in the scientific community are skeptical of these accounts, others believe they offer the most definitive proof of life after death we might ever encounter. And though the debate continues, one thing is for certain: these people insist what they went through was life-altering. But by all means, feel free to judge for yourself. Okay, we're going to start off like this. Number 10, a lady by the name of Veronica Erderich Barthel, and she writes that after being struck by lightning while driving her car one day in 1981, she was instantly transported into hell, where she found demons escorting her into a big waiting room. The creatures that I saw there were more terrifying than anything I even saw in a horror movie. Today I know that they were demons. As soldiers, they were marching past me, and in the middle of them were people that were screaming with pain. It was very difficult to breathe down there because of the terrible smell of this place. I saw a lake which looked like the inner part of a volcano where people were cursing because of great pain. She also goes on to say that she saw people being thrown into caves which were guarded by demons who threw spears at them as they screamed. She also recalled snakes being present all over the ground which were there to frighten and intimidate people in hell. After the experience, Veronica found herself transported back into her car, where for a moment she saw her own burning hands gripping the steering wheel. Now, as I was saying earlier on, not all experiences are the same, and they're not all pleasant. As you just heard tonight, ladies and gentlemen, here is a lady who was zapped by lightning in her car, and she was zapped into hell, and she described it. That is so freaky. I better get ready for the cake thing. Yes, I've seen cake. That's the way to my heart. Aliens, LOL. Oops, I froze. I meant extraterrestrials. That was for Marty. Take care and stay safe. Okay, we will be discussing about aliens and extraterrestrials and another topic there, Stacey. Here's number 9, Howard Storm. Once a self-described double atheist and a know-it-all college professor, Howard Storm was leading a 3-week European art tour with his students when he retired to his hotel room in France on the last day of the trip. Without warning, he suddenly screamed and dropped to the floor, prompting his wife to call for help. At the hospital, the news was grim. Howard had perforated stomach that required surgery, and if he didn't get it soon, he would die. The wait for a doctor to arrive at the hospital was lengthy, so much so that Howard turned to his wife at one point and said his final farewell to her, insisting that he was moments from death. That's when he recalled finding himself standing next to his own body, which was still on the hospital bed, and feeling more alive than ever with no more stomach pain. Soon after, he heard unfamiliar voices calling to him. "Come with us," they said. "Hurry up, let's go. We've been waiting for you." After calling out to his wife, getting no response, he began to follow the voices which led him out of the room and down a long, dark hallway. He followed them for so long and became so increasingly terrified that he told the voices he wasn't going any further. Then they attacked him. We had a big fight, and the fight turned into them annihilating me, which they did slowly and with much relish, he says. Mostly they were biting and tearing at me. This went on for a long time. They did other things to humiliate me and violate me which I don't talk about. Collapsed on the ground, Howard began reciting the Lord's Prayer, after hearing a soft voice tell him to pray to God. After saying a few other prayers, he said that Jesus personally saved him from the demons and sent him back to earth, telling him to live his life differently. Storm's book is called My Descent into Death, and it was published in the year 2000. So there you go. It's not all about light and the feeling of peace, love, and harmony that others have seen. You didn't see my comment I put, what topic would you like tomorrow night, folks? So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was just some stories that we've touched on. We're up to number 8 at the moment. Dr. Mary Neal, and I will finish it off with her tonight. During a kayaking trip in 1999, Dr. Mary Neal became pinned under the water where her kayak capsized, making it impossible for her to breathe for anywhere between 15 and 25 minutes. That's when she says she experienced a near-death experience that brought her into the presence of God, Jesus, and angels. During the experience, God told her that her family would be facing an upcoming tragedy and would need her to help them through. Specifically, her 9-year-old son, Willie, was going to die, but she wasn't told when, where, or how. 10 years later, at age 19, Willie was killed in a car accident in Maine by a driver who was on his cell phone. Mary is convinced Jesus helped her under the water, making it possible for her rescue workers to revive her following the kayaking accident. She awoke with 2 broken legs and lung complications and spent a month in the hospital, followed by 6 weeks in a wheelchair. She wrote a book called To Heaven and Back, which was published in May 2012. So there you go, people. Near-death experiences. Everybody has a different story. Not everybody sees the light. Not everybody feels the love. That would have been horrible to have that on your mind for 10 years. Yeah, exactly, Janet, knowing that someone in your family was going to die. Not everybody gets a chance to see a place like hell. And not everybody gets to experience actually being led out of your room and beaten by demons. Tonight has been an eye-opener for me, and I really hope that tonight has been a real eye-opener for you all. I'd like to thank you all for being here tonight. I'd like to thank you all for the support that you have given me so far, and I hope that you will always keep supporting me, supporting this page. So until tomorrow night, ladies and gentlemen, have a good night. Be safe out there. And one thing that I would love, if possible, not only love yourself, but tell those that you do love that you actually love them, because you never know when your time is up. You don't know when that time comes. I came close to burying my son many years ago. I tell him every day that I love him. I tell all my children every day that I love them and that I am proud of them, because I never know that when my time comes, it's going to come. So all I ask tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is if you have to message someone, if you have to ring that person, do it. Tell them how much you love them. Until tomorrow night, ladies and gentlemen, stay safe and thank you. Good night.